Welcome to Muse Monday, a conversation series with emerging artists and recent graduates about making it, mastery, and being a multi-hyphenate in the entertainment industry today. My name is Bryce Dallas Howard, and I'm founder of Nine Muses Entertainment, and you are about to meet the wonderful Nia Farrell, who will be your host for the series.
Hey everyone, it's Nia with Nine Muses Entertainment. Today's special guest is Isa Uzcátegui. Isa is an actor, writer, and director who develops new work that's rooted in her Latin American identity. In all her work, she engages with building a personal artistic mythology. Today, we're going to talk about how you can build your own.
Hey Isa, how's it going?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing okay. Thank you for joining us on Muse Monday.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I have always known you as a person who is engaging in the abstract and the existential when it comes to art making and creating a mythology, which is so inspiring and invigorating to be around. So before you take us through what it is to build a mythology, I thought you could define what a mythology is to you when it comes to an artistic practice.
Yeah, totally. When it comes to artistic practice, I like to think of mythology as the stories we tell in our art to make sense of the world around us. So every story that we unfold in a piece of theater or film comes from within and from our environment. So that's what I like to define as mythology.
That's beautiful. And why do you think having a mythology as an artist is important?
It's so important to have a mythology as an artist because that's where everything that you tell sparks from. It's where the seed of your ideas come to fruition and sort of the story of the piece that you're trying to tell grows from. Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, I would be lying if I said I wasn't intimidated by the idea of mythology. It feels so big and so outside of me, and so I thought you'd be the best person to kind of take us through how to build your own mythology from spark to kindling to fire, really breaking down that process. You say the first thing is surrounding yourself with sparks, so what do you surround yourself with to inspire you?
Totally. I think that when I start building an idea, I like to think of it as you have to start to build a little spark or a little fire and kind of surrounding yourself with the genius around you. And the way I like to approach it is through building habits, building things in my routine that can foster that inspiration to come. So I really like waking up early, for example. So I'll wake up early and I'll devise a time where I'm writing in the morning, Or I personally really enjoy working out, and when I do, I know that sometimes that clears my mind and I can go back to writing or go back to crafting an idea. So that's something that I use to spark an idea. And then to find more artistic ideas, I really enjoy overstimuli, and I know I'm a person of visual stimuli, so I'll create Pinterest boards, or I'll watch a lot of movies in the genre that I'm obsessed with. Right now I'm really obsessed with sci-fi, so I'll do rewatch of old movies, or I'll watch TV shows and stuff. And from there I start to grab onto ideas, and that's sort of where I would say I start to let those inform where I'm at in inspiration. I don't really try to force it too much because then I just don't know what I'm doing yet. So I think that's the very beginning of the things that I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost surrounding yourself with anything that might catch fire as soon as you feel called to make something. It's knowing that you can always reach out on something that stirs your soul, or something that made you ask a question that you never thought of before.
Right, or you can ask somebody who's an expert on something, or read articles, or I don't know, what do you do to grab inspiration? Are you a visual or an oral person, or what kind of person, what kind of artist?
I think when I'm awake, I'm so focused on the practical, and sometimes that gets in the way of my imagination. So often my inspiration time is taking a quick 20-minute nap to just dream. I have an intention before I close my eyes, where it's it can be as specific as I want to focus on this moment in a piece that I'm working on that I haven't cracked the code on, or like I just want to dream on what an Afro future looks like. And so having that intention and kind of like leading myself into a meditative dream state, I wake up and it's like, oh, I saw this image and I was reminded of this movie that I saw that I want to return to. And I feel like dreams are a very like rich source for a lot of inspiration.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
So we have all of these things around us that are bound to catch fire. What do we do with it when it does catch fire? How do you start honing in what the mythology looks like?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I do is I trust that sometimes it won't catch fire. You know, I trust that sometimes I'll have an idea and it's in the back of my mind. But sometimes there's something that's calling me to that idea. Either there's like a sign or I keep running into the same kind of themes in my life, or I'll have a conversation with someone that they have the same idea or the same interest in it. So then from there, I decide, okay, this is something that it's calling me to pursue it. And there's where the magic starts to come around, where I like to call it that. And so you can start to do whatever you want to do, right? I usually start to write a lot about it. I journal about it. I start to create either small pieces of something, either in theater or in film, to try experimenting, building something of this theme, building something, and then slowly I find myself linking points in storytelling and linking points in this idea that I'm forming. And so that's where it starts to take, little by little steps and form something.
Yeah, where it goes from pieces of inspiration to like an actual piece that you would like want to share with others.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of a piece that you worked on that kind of went from inklings to a little more fire?
Yeah, totally. The last theater piece I did before all the pandemic happened was my theater piece called 25, which is 25 in Spanish. And it was a piece where I started to have a lot of questions about language and about language in the bodies of people who are bilingual, and in particularly my body. So I started to localize it, me as a Latino woman who grew up speaking Spanish first and then speaking English, and then having sort of a conflict in my brain about my personality or the stories I was telling to people, the jokes I was telling to people. And so I began, I guess, a very self-reflectory process with this one. And I started with talking to people that have the same experience, particularly talking to Latino women about this experience. And I started to build a piece, but it's hard to say I started to build a piece. It's easier to break it down into, I started to create poems, I started to create journal entries, I started to find songs that resemble that idea, and slowly, little by little, I sort of manifested with a group of people, of course, not only by myself, but I created this piece where we had this in conversation. And so that's what the piece is. It's like an exploration of all of this placed on theater, which was our chosen medium, because ultimately you can choose also as an artist what you're going to do with it. You could be doing a film or a podcast or a website, and in my case, it was theater. And so that's what it culminated into, and that was the story that developed from that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad you made that distinction between like all the little steps that led you to the piece, because oftentimes when I think of like the magic of art making, it's like you have an idea and then boom, you're suddenly producing it off Broadway, and that's the thing.
Right.
Like it takes all those little poems and those like one-line phrases and something that your collaborator said, like all of those put together ends up making the piece.
Yeah, and you'll have a film reference, and you know that film, so you'll watch it a bunch of times, and you're like, what do I like about that film that's drawing me into what is the connection that I'm trying to grab here? It's kind of
getting
like
really specific about what it's exactly calling you, rather than like the film in its entirety. It's actually this one shot, this one color that they showed. Like that's what's bringing me into this piece.
Totally, yeah.
So you have a bunch of inspiration and projects that have been drawn from that source. Is that then a mythology? How do you know when you've like built your artistic mythology?
It's more of a lifetime's work. I call it like the first chapter, or a chapter, For my piece 25, it was definitely a chapter that I learned so much about making and about myself. And I think the key is in myself too, because I realized that mythology is such a big and broad term, but it's also physicalized to the body. And I think it's so important that it's a personal mythology. And ultimately that theme and those ideas that I was exploring and questioning, and it's still to this day, I don't feel like it's done. So I feel like in my artistic practice, I'm going to keep exploring these themes or the medium or these stories that are in my body inherently, that are in my ideas, and in those collaborations that I have made so far, you know, and I think that's what I would call the personal mythology.
It's a lifetime of work and collaboration and personal development all put together.
Yeah, and it's where you're gonna start developing your taste, which I don't think I have a taste so far. I think what I have are just like responses, you know. I'm responding to the changes that are happening around me. I'm responding to the way people are putting forth their mythologies. I'm responding to other artists' works. I'm responding to the climate of everyone and everything. And I feel like I have to say something about, everyone has to say something as an artist, right? Because artists have such a power of change, and I feel like the more deeply personal those stories and those mythologies can connect to you, the more universal that they speak to other people as well, you know?
Yeah. Can you give some examples of mythologies that you found in other artists that really inspire you?
One mythology that I love, I am super inspired by Taika Waititi's mythology. I think that both in style but also themes, I resonate with. The boldness of just keeping a sense of course there's the comedy and there's the stylistic choices, but just also the thematics. I love the thematics of family and motherhood. Those things I resonate with. And I know that the art that I'm going to put out there is very different from his, but I do resonate a lot with all of the above of what he's creating. So I think that's the first person that came to my mind right now.
Yeah. I love that someone's mythology that inspires you doesn't necessarily have to align with yours. Like, it's so great to see someone step into their power as an artist and build something off of that. That can, in and of itself, is really inspiring.
Yeah, if I don't tap into a greater something, I feel like I'm just going to stay here, you know? And I kind of have to keep one foot on the magical aspect and one foot on let's wake up, have breakfast, and then see if I can write, you know? See if I can grab a coffee and then go watch something, you know?
I mean, you've demystified the mythology and the magic of the artistic process. I feel as though artists, and I'm calling out myself in this, I feel like we talk about magic as kind of a amorphous thing that we don't really know what we're attributing it to, but you've created a very like intentional practice in what you do, and I think it'll be like really helpful for others to hear that you don't have to wait for the spark or you don't have to wait for luck. Like, there's things that you can put around you every single day that'll help generate. You made mythology, which is such an expansive topic, very easy to grasp onto as an artist and something that I could start applying right away.
I hope I did. I really hope I did.
Thank you so much for joining us for Muse Monday,
Thank
Isa.
Thank you so much for having me, Nia. It was a pleasure.
And you can follow Isa in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Cool. I subtly started recording because I thought what you were saying was really poignant, so sorry for
No, I like it.